What happens when one of Hollywood's most beloved actors walks onto a morning talk show expecting a friendly chat and instead gets blindsided by a host who seems determined to tear him down? In just 38 seconds, Lorraine Kelly went from cheerful morning television presenter to the most controversial figure on British television, all because she couldn't help but make one shockingly personal comment too many. Eugene Levy settled into the bright orange sofa on the set of The Lorraine Kelly Show, his signature eyebrows raised in that familiar friendly expression audiences have loved for decades. The studio lights were warm, the audience was buzzing with excitement, and everything seemed perfectly normal for what should have been a routine promotional interview. Lorraine Kelly sat across from him, flanked by her regular panelists, Sarah Thornton, the show's entertainment correspondent, and Marcus Webb, a lifestyle commentator known for his quick wit. The energy in the studio felt electric, but not in the good way. There was something off about Lorraine's smile, something a bit too sharp in her eyes. "So, Eugene," Lorraine began, leaning forward with an exaggerated enthusiasm that didn't quite reach her eyes. "You're here to talk about your new film, but I have to say, I'm more interested in talking about why you've been hiding from the spotlight lately. Getting a bit old for all this, are we?" The audience let out an uncomfortable laugh, unsure if this was banter or something else entirely. Eugene's smile faltered slightly, but he recovered with grace. "Well, I wouldn't say hiding," Eugene replied diplomatically. "I've been working consistently, just choosing projects that matter to me." Lorraine waved her hand dismissively. Yes, but let's be honest. You're not exactly setting the world on fire anymore, are you? I mean, when was the last time you did anything relevant?" Sarah Thornton shifted uncomfortably in her seat, exchanging a worried glance with Marcus. This wasn't the playful teasing that morning television was known for. This was something else. "I think Eugene's body of work speaks for itself," Sarah interjected carefully, trying to smooth over the tension. "He's an icon in comedy." Lorraine shot Sarah a look that could freeze water. "I wasn't asking you, Sarah. I was talking to our guest, who seems to think he can just coast on past glory." Eugene sat up a little straighter, his politeness still intact, but his patience clearly being tested. "Lorraine, I came here to talk about the film, which I'm very proud of. Perhaps we could discuss that?" "Oh, here we go," Lorraine said, rolling her eyes dramatically. "The celebrity who can't handle a real question. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You people come on these shows expecting us to just fawn all over you, but I'm not playing that game." Marcus Webb cleared his throat, attempting to redirect the conversation. "The film actually looks quite interesting. Eugene, what drew you to this particular project?" "Thank you, Marcus," Eugene said, clearly grateful for the lifeline. "The script was wonderful, and the cast was incredible to work with. We shot in some beautiful locations and—" "Boring," Lorraine interrupted, making a show of yawning. "Absolutely boring. Do you always give such rehearsed, dull answers? Or is this just because you're past your prime and have nothing interesting to say anymore?" The audience gasped. This had crossed a line, and everyone in the studio could feel it. Sarah's mouth hung open in shock, and Marcus looked down at his notes, clearly embarrassed to be part of this panel. Eugene took a deep breath, maintaining his composure with remarkable restraint. "I'm not sure what you're hoping to achieve here, Lorraine, but I'm happy to leave if you'd prefer to continue this conversation without me." "Oh, don't be so sensitive," Lorraine said with a dismissive laugh. "This is live television. If you can't handle a bit of honest conversation, maybe you should stick to those little comedy films where everyone tells you how wonderful you are." "Those little comedy films?" Eugene repeated, his voice still calm, but with an edge that hadn't been there before. "Those little comedy films have brought joy to millions of people. They've meant something to families around the world. What exactly have you done that's so impressive?" Lorraine's face flushed red. She clearly wasn't used to guests pushing back against her behavior. "Excuse me? I've been in broadcasting for decades. I've interviewed everyone who matters." and apparently learned nothing about respect or basic human decency in all that time, Eugene replied, his voice still measured but firm. The studio fell into a shocked silence. Sarah and Marcus both looked like they wanted to disappear into their seats. The camera operators didn't know where to point their lenses. This was television gold, but for all the wrong reasons. Lorraine stood up from her chair, her face now fully crimson. "How dare you come onto my show and speak to me like that? Do you know who I am?" "I know exactly who you are," Eugene said, remaining seated, refusing to be intimidated. "You're someone who's forgotten that kindness costs nothing. You invited me here as a guest, and you've done nothing but insult me from the moment I sat down." "I'm giving you reality," Lorraine shot back, her voice rising. "I'm asking real questions instead of lobbing softballs like every other mindless talk show host." "There's a difference between asking tough questions and being needlessly cruel," Eugene countered. "You're not some fearless journalist. You're a bully with a microphone." Sarah finally found her voice, speaking up with clear discomfort. "Perhaps we should take a quick break and—" "Stay out of this, Sarah," Lorraine snapped, pointing a finger at her panelist. "This is my show, and I'll run it how I see fit." Marcus tried next, his voice placating. "Lorraine, I think what Eugene is trying to say—" "I don't care what Eugene is trying to say," Lorraine practically shouted. "He's a washed-up actor who should be grateful I even agreed to have him on my show. Do you know how many people would kill to sit on that sofa?" Eugene stood up slowly, brushing off his jacket with quiet dignity. "Then I'm sure you'll have no trouble filling this seat with someone who's willing to tolerate your behavior. I, however, am not that person." "You can't just leave," Lorraine sputtered, her entitled attitude on full display. "We're in the middle of a segment." "Watch me," Eugene said simply. He turned to Sarah and Marcus. "It was lovely to meet you both, even under these circumstances. I'm sorry you have to work in this environment." Sarah gave him a small, grateful nod. Marcus looked like he wanted to applaud, but didn't dare. Lorraine moved to block Eugene's path, her arms crossed over her chest. "If you walk off this set, I'll make sure everyone knows what a difficult, unprofessional diva you are. I have that power." Eugene looked at her for a long moment, and when he spoke, his voice was quiet, but carried throughout the entire studio. "You can say whatever you like about me, Lorraine, but everyone in this room, everyone watching at home, they all saw what really happened here today. They saw a host who was supposed to make her guests feel welcome instead choose to demean and attack someone for no reason other than her own ego." "My ego?" Lorraine laughed, but it sounded hollow and desperate. "That's rich coming from someone who probably demands sparkling water and organic fruit in their dressing room." "I asked for nothing," Eugene said. "I came here with an open heart and good intentions. You're the one who decided to turn this into something ugly." The audience was completely silent now, hanging on every word. This wasn't entertainment anymore. This was real, raw, and uncomfortable. Lorraine's voice took on a mocking tone. "Oh, poor Eugene Levy. Can't handle a little criticism. What happened to the tough guy from all those movies?" "There's nothing tough about being needlessly cruel to someone who's done nothing to you," Eugene replied. "And there's nothing weak about refusing to participate in your attempt to humiliate me for ratings." "Ratings?" Lorraine scoffed. "Don't flatter yourself. Nobody's tuning in to see you." Sarah finally stood up, her voice shaking slightly. "Lorraine, this has gone too far. Eugene is right. This isn't professional, and it's not fair." Lorraine whipped around to face Sarah, her fury now redirected. "You're fired!" Marcus's eyes went wide. "Lorraine, you can't just—" "I can do whatever I want," Lorraine declared, her voice shrill and desperate. "This is my show, mine, and if you don't like how I run it, you can leave too." Eugene shook his head, sadly. This is what happens when someone gets a little bit of power and forgets what it means to treat people with respect. You're not a queen, Lorraine. You're a talk show host who's lost sight of why people trusted you in the first place. "Get out!" Lorraine screamed, her composure completely shattered now. Get out of my studio right now. I was already leaving, Eugene said calmly. You just couldn't let me go with dignity. You had to make it about you, about your control, about your need to be right. He started walking toward the exit, and Lorraine followed him, still shouting. You'll never work in this industry again. I'll make sure of it. I know everyone. Eugene paused at the edge of the set and turned back one final time. The sad thing is, you actually believe that. You actually think your opinion matters more than basic human decency. Don't you dare lecture me, Lorraine shrieked. I've earned my place here. What have you ever done except make people laugh at stupid jokes? I've made people happy, Eugene said softly. I've created moments of joy in people's lives. I've tried to leave the world a little bit better than I found it. Can you say the same? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Lorraine opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. For the first time since the interview began, she seemed at a loss. Marcus stood up from his seat. Eugene's right, Lorraine. This has been completely out of line from the start. You too? Lorraine spun to face Marcus, her voice cracking with a mixture of rage and something that might have been panic. After everything I've done for your career? You gave me a job, Marcus said quietly, but that doesn't give you the right to treat people like this. I've watched you do this before, and I've stayed quiet because I needed this position. But Eugene's brave enough to stand up to you, and that makes me realize I should have done the same a long time ago. The studio crew was frozen, cameras still rolling, capturing every moment of this unraveling. The producers were likely losing their minds in the control room, but nobody moved to cut the feed. Lorraine looked around the studio, seeming to finally realize that she'd lost control of the situation entirely. Fine, all of you. Just fine. I don't need any of you. I made this show what it is, and I can make it great again without you. This show was great because people trusted you, Eugene said from his position near the exit. They invited you into their homes every morning because they thought you were warm and genuine. But you've shown everyone today who you really are when you think you have power over someone. I do have power, Lorraine insisted, but her voice wavered. This is my show. A show is nothing without guests willing to appear on it, Eugene pointed out. And after today, I suspect you're going to find it very difficult to convince anyone to sit on that sofa. Sarah had tears in her eyes now, whether from stress or emotion was unclear. Lorraine, why are you doing this? Eugene came here in good faith. Because I'm tired of pretending, Lorraine exploded, the truth finally spilling out. I'm tired of smiling and being nice to people who think they're better than me. I'm tired of celebrities who coast on their fame while I work myself to death every single day. Nobody said they were better than you, Eugene said gently, and his kindness in that moment seemed to crack something in Lorraine's armor. But you're acting like you have something to prove, and you're hurting people in the process. You don't understand, Lorraine said, and for the first time, she sounded less angry and more desperate. You don't understand what it's like to fight for every opportunity, to constantly prove yourself in an industry that wants to replace you with someone younger, prettier, more exciting. You're right. I don't understand your specific experience, Eugene acknowledged. But I do understand that taking out your frustrations on innocent people isn't the answer. I've never claimed to be better than anyone. I've just tried to do good work and treat people well. It's easy for you to say that, Lorraine shot back, some of the fight returning to her voice. You've had an easy career, playing the same character over and over. You think my career has been easy? Eugene asked, and there was genuine curiosity in his voice rather than anger. You think I haven't faced rejection, criticism, doubt? The difference is, I didn't let it turn me bitter. I didn't let it make me cruel. Marcus stepped forward, positioning himself between Lorraine and Eugene. I think we all need to take a step back and breathe. This has escalated beyond anything that should happen on television. Don't tell me what should happen on my television show, Lorraine snapped, but there was less conviction in her words now. Eugene sighed, a sound of deep weariness. I genuinely hope you find whatever it is you're looking for, Lorraine. I hope you find peace with yourself and your career. But I can't be part of this anymore. So that's it? Lorraine asked, her voice sharp but with an underlying tremor. You're just going to walk away and leave me looking like the villain? You've made yourself look like the villain, Eugene said without malice. I'm just refusing to be your victim. There's a difference. He turned to leave again, and this time Lorraine didn't follow. She stood in the middle of her studio, surrounded by crew members who wouldn't meet her eyes, panelists who had turned against her, and an audience that sat in stunned silence. This isn't over, Lorraine called out, but it sounded hollow, like she knew it absolutely was over. Eugene paused in the doorway, his back still to her. It is for me. I sincerely wish you well, Lorraine. I hope you figure out what's really making you unhappy, because it's clearly not me. And with that, Eugene Levy walked off the set of The Lorraine Kelly Show, leaving behind a host whose entitled attitude and shocking behavior had just been broadcast to thousands of viewers. The cameras kept rolling as Lorraine stood alone on her set, the reality of what she'd done finally seeming to sink in. Sarah and Marcus quietly gathered their things, neither looking at Lorraine as they prepared to leave the set as well. The audience remained frozen, unsure if they should applaud, boo, or simply leave. Lorraine finally seemed to snap out of her daze. We're still filming. Someone cut the cameras. Cut the cameras right now. But the damage was done. The entire confrontation had been broadcast live, and there was no taking it back. Eugene's dignity in the face of her attacks, his patience even when provoked, his ultimate refusal to engage with her toxicity, all of it had been witnessed by everyone watching. I said cut the cameras! Lorraine screamed again, her voice breaking. A producer finally rushed onto the set, speaking quietly to Lorraine, who seemed to shrink with every word. Her hands shook as she tried to maintain some semblance of composure, but it was too late for that. In the hallway outside the studio, Eugene walked with quiet purpose toward the exit. A few crew members approached him, apologizing for what had happened, thanking him for standing up to behavior they'd witnessed too many times before. She's not always like that, one young production assistant said, though her voice suggested she wasn't even convincing herself. I appreciate you saying that, Eugene replied kindly, but I think we both know that's not entirely true. The production assistant nodded sadly. You're right. Thank you for not losing your temper. A lot of people would have. Anger would have just given her what she wanted, Eugene explained. She wanted me to look bad, to justify her behavior. The best thing I could do was stay calm and speak the truth. Back in the studio, the audience was finally being dismissed, filing out with shocked expressions and animated conversations. They'd come expecting a pleasant morning talk show and instead witnessed a complete meltdown on live television. Sarah caught up with Eugene in the hallway, slightly out of breath. I'm so sorry. I should have said something sooner. I should have defended you from the start. Eugene gave her a warm smile. You spoke up when it mattered. That took courage, especially since she's your boss. Was my boss, Sarah corrected. After today, I don't think I can work for her anymore. None of us can. Marcus joined them, looking shaken but resolute. That was the most uncomfortable television I've ever been part of, and I once had to interview a politician who fell asleep mid-sentence. Eugene actually laughed at that, a genuine sound that seemed to ease some of the tension in the hallway. Well, I'm glad I could provide you with a new worst experience. You were incredible in there, Marcus said seriously. Most people would have shouted back or stormed off immediately. You gave her every chance to back down, to be reasonable. I kept hoping she would, Eugene admitted. I genuinely didn't want it to end that way. But some people are so committed to their narrative that they can't see what they're doing to themselves. The three of them stood together in the hallway, an unlikely alliance formed through shared trauma and mutual respect. Through the studio doors, they could still hear Lorraine's raised voice, though the words were muffled. "Do you think she'll face any consequences for this?" Sarah asked quietly. Eugene shrugged. "That's not for me to decide or worry about. I just know I won't be contributing to an environment where that kind of behavior is tolerated. Life's too short to spend time with people who are determined to make you feel small." A security guard approached them politely. "Mr. Levy, we can escort you out through the back entrance if you'd prefer to avoid any cameras or reporters." "That's very kind, thank you," Eugene said. He turned to Sarah and Marcus. "Take care of yourselves. Stand up for what's right, even when it's difficult, especially when it's difficult." They both nodded, and Sarah impulsively gave Eugene a quick hug. "Thank you for showing us what integrity looks like." As Eugene walked toward the exit, the sound of his footsteps echoed in the hallway, each step taking him further away from one of the most bizarre and uncomfortable experiences of his career. Behind him, the chaos of the Lorraine Kelly show continued to unfold, but he was no longer part of it. He pushed open the door to the outside world, where fresh air and freedom waited. The morning sun was bright, the sky was clear, and somewhere in the distance, life continued on as normal, blissfully unaware of the television drama that had just unfolded. Eugene took a deep breath, squared his shoulders, and walked toward his car with his head held high. He'd come to the show to promote a film, to share his work with an audience, to connect with fans. Instead, he'd been forced to defend his dignity against a host who had forgotten the basic rules of hospitality and respect. But he'd done it with grace. He'd done it with class. He'd shown that you don't have to match cruelty with cruelty, that you can stand up for yourself without tearing someone else down. That dignity is something no one can take from you unless you give it away. And Eugene Levy, beloved actor, comedy legend, and genuinely decent human being, had absolutely no intention of giving his dignity away to anyone, least of all to a talk show host who had mistaken a platform for permission to be cruel.